When night fell during the Second World War, fear came with it. Not just fear of bombers in the sky, but fear of thieves, saboteurs, or desperate men prowling for whatever could be stolen. Families in war zones and occupied territories faced the terrifying reality of keeping their homes safe in complete darkness. No floodlights, no electronic alarms, no modern locks, just ingenuity, discipline, and old-world tactics passed down through necessity. The Blackout laws forced families to find ways to make their homes invisible, and in that invisibility they discovered new strategies of protection. The lesson is clear. Survival did not always belong to those with the most weapons, but to those who knew how to secure their ground when others sought to take it. Today, when we think of guarding a homestead, many jump to firearms, but history proves that silent, clever, and practical defences are just as powerful. Let's step into that shadowed world and uncover 5 home defence strategies from WWII that can still be applied today by anyone serious about protecting their space without depending on constant technology or noisy confrontation. The Blackout was the first line of defence. During the Blitz in Britain, entire cities were ordered to go dark. Windows were covered with heavy blackout curtains, gaps sealed with tape or boards, and even cigarette tips were forbidden to glow outside. To the authorities, this was about hiding from bombers, but for families on the ground, darkness was also a shield against human threats. A home invisible at night was far less likely to attract looters or soldiers looking for supplies. The lesson for today is that visibility is vulnerability. A brightly lit home in a crisis stands out as a target. Using blackout curtains or even simple heavy blankets to seal light sources ensures privacy and reduces the risk of being marked as the house with resources. If power grids fail or tensions rise, practicing light discipline, keeping light low, using red filters and never signalling activity outside becomes a powerful form of passive defense. A home that looks empty after dark is far safer than one that advertises life within. Sound discipline kept homes hidden. Silence was survival. In occupied France, families learned that a careless noise at night could draw patrols or thieves. Folks whispered, muffled doors, and even trained children to remain quiet when danger pressed close. During air raids, silence allowed families to distinguish between the whistle of bombs, the march of boots, or the approach of neighbours. Modern preppers can learn from this by practicing sound control within the home. In a blackout or grid-down situation, voices carry further than one expects. Radios, generators, or even clanging pots can act like beacons. The WWII method was simple control sound at night as carefully as light. For a modern household, that might mean insulating a generator shed, using soft flooring in key areas, or creating quiet hours after dark. The quieter the home, the less likely it is to attract the kind of attention that leads to confrontation. Perimeter warning systems created psychological advantage. One of the cleverest tactics families used in both urban and rural areas was setting up early warning traps. In England's countryside, wires strung with tin cans alerted farmers if someone approached the barn. In cities, loose rubble was deliberately left near doorways so that intruders would stumble noisily. Some families in Eastern Europe went further, training dogs not only to bark but to recognize certain signals for silence or warning. The principle here is simple. You do not need to confront an intruder directly if you know about them first. Today, modern preppers can borrow this by setting up discreet noise-making systems around the perimeter, a line of crushed gravel, a strand of cans tucked discreetly, or even motion-triggered solar lights can provide both a warning and a deterrent. The goal is not necessarily to stop an intruder with force, but to make them second-guess their attempt and give the homeowner time to react, whether that means staying hidden or moving to a stronger position. You know, WWII households relied on seconds of warning to mean the difference between being surprised or being prepared, and that rule has not changed. Families who could not afford confrontation often turned to deception. In some cases, false windows were painted to make homes look abandoned or bombed out, reducing interest from looters. Others placed dummies in upper windows, giving the impression of watchful guards. At times, small fires or lanterns were placed away from actual living quarters, leading potential threats to approach the wrong spot. For the modern homestead, decoys remain one of the most effective silent defences. A fake camera, even without batteries, deters many would-be intruders. A set of boots left by a door suggests occupancy, even if the family is elsewhere. A dog bowl by the porch can dissuade a prowler before they risk meeting what may or may not be an actual dog. Your two families understood the psychology of intruders. Most threats prefer easy targets. By making a home look either watched or worthless, they redirected danger elsewhere without ever lifting a weapon. Perhaps the most overlooked but powerful Second World War defence tactic was the formation of quiet neighbourhood watches. In British villages, one farmer might stay awake to listen, while others slept, with signals arranged by lantern flash or a knock pattern on doors. In Polish towns under occupation, families created coded signals, chalk marks on fences or specific songs sung in the evening to alert others of approaching danger. The collective watch created a sense of security and multiplied the eyes and ears available. Modern applications are, quite direct. A family alone is vulnerable, but a community of 3 or 4 households willing to check on one another creates strength. In a prolonged disaster, setting up simple agreements, such as rotating watches, discreet signals for trouble, or even a shared meeting point, can transform isolated homes into a defended unit. This requires trust, of course, but the Second World War teaches that community was the single greatest multiplier of safety when resources were thin and threats constant. To adapt these strategies today, one does not need to recreate the exact conditions of the Second World War, but the principles remain the same. Start by practicing light and sound discipline during blackouts, training the household to move quietly and cover windows effectively. Build in simple perimeter alerts using natural materials like gravel paths or controlled noise traps. Incorporate deception into the home exterior so that it never looks like the easiest target on the street. Most importantly, invest in relationships with neighbours or trusted allies who can form a silent, cooperative network. These methods are not expensive, nor do they require advanced technology, but they work because they exploit human psychology as effectively now as they did then. The families who endured the blackouts of the Second World War knew that survival was as much about subtlety as strength. They learned to use silence, darkness, warning traps, deception and community as shields against danger. These strategies worked in an age of bombers and black markets, and they remain relevant in a world where crises may once again strip away the comforts of technology and law. For the serious historian and the thoughtful prepper, the lesson is timeless. True defence often happens before a confrontation ever begins. If you found these forgotten strategies valuable and want to see more history-tested methods for survival, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning and share this guide with others who value both history and preparedness. The shadows beyond the torchlight still hold threats, but with the wisdom of the past, we can be ready for them.